welcome to an Indie Author Mindset podcast a special episode. Today, I'm going to be talking about different publishing methods and about particularly vanity publishing. There's been a lot of discussion recently in the Indie Author Mindset Facebook group to the point where we've even had Vanity Publishers planting employees of theirs, believe it or not, in the group to defend them and big them up. Fortunately, Facebook gives us the tools to spot those people, and it's not very difficult, really, to see what their motives are. But they do this because they are desperate, and there's a good reason why. The landscape in publishing has changed a lot recently. The definition of indie or self-published has got a bit muddied, so I'm going to clear some things up on this podcast special today. Historically, when you were publishing, you had two options. You either got a traditional publisher, or you found somebody that you could pay to publish your book. Traditional publishing, publishers pay you. You do not contribute to them financially, not upfront. They take a cut of royalties. That's how they earn their money. They will usually pay an advance of some sort. They will deal with the editing, the cover design, and so on. But you do not hand money to them. Now, there is a new wave of publishers who don't pay an advance, but they will give you a much higher royalty. Again, you do not pay them. They will deal with the editing, the cover design. They will pay for that too, and in return, they will take a chunk of the royalties. That is the publishing model in a nutshell. Now, there are also some publishers who will claim to be indie publishers, trad publishers, small presses. They go under lots of different guises, but they will ask for a contribution. No. Run. If they don't have the faith in your book or in their own marketing capabilities, run a mile. If they've got so little confidence, they're asking you to take all of the risk, run. Even if they ask you to take half the risk, run. This is the point of a publisher. They take on that risk. That is why it's difficult to get a publisher. They're waiting for books that they know they've got a very good chance of being able to sell, because they'll lose their shirt if they don't. In 10 years in this industry, I'm yet to be convinced by anyone that an author handing money to a publisher is anything other than extremely shady and deeply worrying at best. So, what is indie publishing or self-publishing? Where does it come in? I don't like the title self-publishing or self-published for a couple of reasons. First of all, it has been used in a derogatory sense for a long time by publishing houses and by certain people to almost as a stick to beat indie publishers with. It's gained some negative connotations, which I think are, first of all, completely unwarranted, and second of all, could do with shaking off. Also, it's not true. We are not self-published. We're not doing it ourselves. There is no self about it whatsoever. The definition is that we are the author and the publisher. We are independent of the mainstream. We are indie authors, but we are fast becoming, and in many ways have already become, the mainstream. And that's why it's so important and incumbent on us to do things ethically and do things the right way. No cutting corners, no cheating. As an indie or self-published author, if you want to use that term, you maintain full rights over your work. You find a cover designer, you find an editor. You do not do those things yourself. Trust me, even if you are a designer, even if you are an editor, don't. Being an indie author is not a backup option to not finding a publisher. It's quite the opposite, in fact. There's a reason why more authors are leaving publishers to go indie than the other way round. Our paperback books are available in shops. We have access to hardback production. Neither of those things are difficult either. It's just filling in a couple of forms and uploading files to an online dashboard like Ingram Spark. Being indie excludes you from nothing. It's not a fallback option in the slightest. I'm fully indie, or self-published if you like, and my books are in major bookstores and small ones. I've got a potential TV series based on my books being worked on as we speak. I get invited to speak all over the country and all over the world, even though 99% of the time I say no, and I'm answerable to absolutely nobody. But there are some people posing as indie publishers, which are actually nothing of the sort. There are Vanity Publishers, for example. These are a tricky breed. They set themselves up as publishers or as indie presses, but in reality they're nothing of the sort. They're asking you to pay, often thousands, to publish your book. Now, I get heartbreaking emails every week, sometimes every day, from authors who have been stung by these companies. I honestly could not tell you how many emails I've had. They have shelled out £10,000-20,000 to see their book on sale, and they've got nothing to show for it. Quite often they've signed away their rights and their intellectual property as well. They've spent their life savings on this dream of getting their book into print, getting it on the shelves, and then nothing. The hardest thing in the world is having to tell them that if they just contacted me earlier or done a bit of research, they could have had their book on sale much quicker, paid only a few $100s for cover design and editing, and they would still own the book that they've spent years working on. Now, these companies are easy to find. The Alliance of Independent Authors has a watchdog desk which lists out the worst, but that's by no means comprehensive. It's muddied by vanity publishing companies who set themselves up as service providers. You can't see my air quotes, I know. Calling themselves a one-stop shop for editing, cover design and formatting. No. That's the same as a vanity publisher, except they will fall short of actually hitting the publish button. Now, I don't believe these particular service providers are out to scam people, but their role is entirely unnecessary in my view. Googling and emailing a cover designer is not hard, ergo an editor, typesetter. There are recommendations everywhere, including in the Indie Author Mindset Facebook group. Use Readsy to find recommended providers. It's what it's there for. Ask other authors. But there is an easy way to stay as safe as you can in this industry. The simple rule is, do not pay anyone else to publish your book. Do not hand them a penny. Publishers pay you. If you're an indie publisher, you find individual service providers. You find a cover designer. You find an editor, not through a one-stop shop. Now, yes, that will involve excluding some doubtless quite innocent and altruistic service providers. There are vanity publishers out there who do things the right way, who have half-decent reputations. But that's not an issue. That's irrelevant, because you can carry out their role very easily, very quickly, and very inexpensively yourself. More easily, more quickly, and more inexpensively than they can do it. If you want to publish your own work, it'll be down to you to find that editor, that cover designer, the typesetter, anyone else who will help you make your book the best it can be. These things are not difficult. If you want a publisher to handle all of that so you can just get on with writing the books and hand it over to them, trust me, I do not blame you one bit. But make sure the money goes one way, from the publisher to you. The risk is on them, not on you. You've created that product. The money goes one way. It goes from them to you. You do not pay them. Make sure as well you retain all of your rights and full ownership of your book. If you're in any doubt about that, and it is tricky, contract law in publishing is difficult. Don't get a publishing contract and look at it and think you know you understand it. I would strongly recommend getting hold of a literary agent to check the contract and negotiating for you. But if you want to publish the book yourself, and of course I strongly recommend that you do, this is what I'm here for, then publish it yourself. Avoid those one-stop shop service providers. And for this, The Indie Author Mindset Facebook group and book really will keep you safe from the sharks that are out there. The group is completely free to everybody. The book is about $5. So think of that as a remarkably good value insurance policy. As I say, there are companies out there that are more ethical than the others, but there are so many sharks in the water. My advice is, don't get in, stay on the boat. In short, you wrote the book, you get the money. Never pay someone else to publish your book for you. A publisher pays you. If you go indie, then it's down to you to find your editor, your cover designer, so on. As I keep saying, I have to hammer this home because I really don't want more heartbreaking emails from authors who've been stung. I recommend you don't use those one-stop shop companies. And if you want free, impartial advice, then check out the Indie Author Mindset Facebook group. And if you're ever in any doubt, please just email me. podcast@indieauthormindset.com gets you straight through to me. I'm here to help you avoid the cowboys, and I won't charge you a penny. Now, this is the best industry in the world to work in, and believe me, I've worked in a few, as long as you avoid unethical providers and know what to look out for. Have pride in what you do by doing it the right way. I'll see you soon. This episode of the Indie Author Mindset podcast was presented by me, Adam Croft. The Indie Author Mindset podcast is sponsored by Ingram Spark, helping you get your book into over 40,000 bookstores and libraries worldwide. Get started today at ingramspark.com. The theme music for this podcast is by the Caesareans. Don't forget you can claim 50% off any Indie Author Mindset course by entering the promo code podcast at the checkout. Links are in the show notes. For more great tips and guidance, join the Indie Author Mindset group on Facebook.